You spent 200 hours farming. A duper got the same gear in 5 minutes. This is Diablo 4. Today we're diving deep into why so many players absolutely despise this game and whether the hate is actually justified. Some of these reasons might surprise you. The legacy pressure. Here's the thing, Diablo 2 is considered one of the greatest ARPGs ever made. When you're following that legacy, expectations are through the roof. Every design decision gets compared to how Diablo 2 did it better. Diablo 3 already disappointed many longtime fans by simplifying systems and removing complexity. Now Diablo 4 feels like it's continuing that trend, moving even further away from what made the series special. Players wanted to return to Diablo 2's depth, but instead got something that feels more like a modern live service game. The skill system went from hundreds of possible combinations to a much more limited tree. No more stat allocation, no more complex character building. For veterans who spent thousands of hours theory crafting builds, this feels like dumbing down the franchise. The Monetization Nightmare. This is where things get really ugly. Diablo 4 costs $70 but then hits you with $30 armor sets that only work on one character. In a game about collecting loot, the coolest looking gear is locked behind a paywall. The Battle Pass situation got even worse recently. Players used to get 700 premium currency for completing it. Now they only get 200. That's a 70% reduction in value while keeping the same price point. It feels like Blizzard is squeezing players for every penny. The always online requirement doesn't help either. You can't play solo without an internet connection, which means server issues affect everyone. Launch week was a disaster with constant disconnects and queue times. These aren't free-to-play monetization tactics. This is a full-price game acting like a mobile gacha game. Build diversity and balance issues. This is probably the biggest problem Diablo 4 faces. For an ARPG, build diversity should be king, but Diablo 4 has struggled with this since launch, and it's gotten worse over time. Each season, most classes end up with only 1 to 2 viable builds for endgame content. Want to play Necromancer? You're basically forced into Blood Surge or Army of the Dead. Sorcerer, Chain Lightning, or you're trolling. The result? Walk into any Helltide and everyone is playing the exact same builds. This creates a massive homogenization problem. When 90% of sorcerers are running identical ball lightning setups, the game loses that special ARPG feeling of unique character progression. It starts feeling like everyone's playing the same character with different skins. The patch 1.1 nerfs were particularly brutal, gutting popular builds without providing viable alternatives. It felt like Blizzard was actively making the game less fun. Players spent weeks perfecting builds only to see them destroyed overnight, forcing them back into the narrow meta. Resource management makes this worse. Some classes feel clunky and frustrating to play, especially early on. Barbarian was notoriously weak for multiple seasons before getting meaningful buffs. When only specific builds can handle resource issues properly, your options shrink even further. The worst part? When players find something fun and powerful that breaks the mold, it often gets nerfed into the ground instead of bringing other options up to that level. This approach kills creativity and experimentation, economy and duping crisis. Here's a problem that doesn't get enough attention. The economy is completely broken. Gold farming in Diablo 4 is painfully slow for regular players. You can spend hours grinding and barely afford basic upgrades or crafting materials. But here's the kicker, items on trading platforms are insanely expensive because of widespread duping exploits. While honest players struggle to make 50 million gold, dupers flood the market with perfect items priced at billions. This creates a two-tier economy where legitimate players can't compete. The duping problem has been ongoing for multiple seasons. Every time Blizzard patches one method, new exploits surface. Meanwhile, the damage is already done. Perfect rolled items that should be ultra rare become commonplace among those willing to cheat. This creates massive frustration for players trying to play legitimately. You see streamers with perfect gear worth hundreds of billions of gold, knowing it's either duped or bought from dupers. It makes your own progression feel meaningless. Season 10's Chaos Armor system is actually a smart response to this. By creating new item types that can't be easily duped yet, Blizzard is trying to reset the power balance, but they still need to address the underlying economic problems. Endgame content problems. The endgame is where Diablo 4 really falls apart for many players. After finishing the campaign, you're left with not much. Helltides, nightmare dungeons, and world bosses get repetitive fast. The pit is essentially just greater rifts from Diablo 3, but less interesting. There's no meaningful progression system beyond grinding the same content with bigger numbers. No ladder seasons, no meaningful PvP, no real reason to keep playing after a few weeks. Seasonal content has been hit or miss. Some seasons introduce cool mechanics that disappear after 3 months, leaving players feeling like their time was wasted. Season 8 was particularly bad with AI voice acting and controversial battle pass changes. Boss fights are another sore spot. Immunity phases where you just stand around waiting feel terrible, especially for high damage builds. They're finally fixing this in Season 10, but it took them 10 seasons to address something the players complained about from day one: technical and design issues. The technical problems go beyond server issues. Bugs plague every season launch, sometimes making builds completely unplayable. Season 8 had AI voice, acting that sounded terrible and broke immersion for many players. The user interface has problems too. Inventory management is clunky, the auction house equivalent is confusing, and basic quality of life features took months to implement. Performance issues on console and PC have been ongoing. Frame rate drops during intense combat, loading times that feel endless, and crashes during important moments all contribute to player frustration. These aren't game-breaking issues individually, but they add up to an experience that feels unpolished for an AAA title from a major studio. Community management controversies. Rod Fergusson, the head of Diablo, made some controversial statements that really rubbed players the wrong way. His suggestion that all ARPGs should be called Diablo-like games felt incredibly arrogant, especially with Path of Exile 2 on the horizon. The post got over 600,000 views but only 756 likes, with over 2,000 critical comments. That's not just poor reception, that's a community actively rejecting leadership messaging. Blizzard's response to criticism often feels tone-deaf. Instead of addressing core concerns, they sometimes double down on unpopular decisions or dismiss feedback as coming from a vocal minority. Communication about upcoming changes is inconsistent, leaving players guessing about the game's direction. If you're enjoying this breakdown of Diablo 4's problems, hit that like button and subscribe for more honest gaming takes. What's your biggest issue with Diablo 4? Let me know in the comments. The other side of the story. Here's the thing though, despite all these problems, Diablo 4 is actually the best ARPG I've ever played. I know that sounds crazy after listing all those issues, but hear me out. The core gameplay and grind loop is absolutely addictive. When everything clicks, when you're efficiently farming, getting upgrades, pushing higher content, there's nothing quite like it. The moment-to-moment combat feels incredible, and that satisfying loot explosion never gets old. Yes, the RNG is high, but that's also what makes it exciting. You always feel like you're progressing, even during unlucky streaks. Every Helltide run could drop that perfect upgrade. Every boss kill might finally give you the mythic you need. That constant possibility keeps you coming back. The story and cinematics are legitimately excellent, with some of the best voice acting and visual design Blizzard has ever done. Lilith is an incredible villain, and the dark, gothic atmosphere is perfect. The campaign alone is worth the price of admission. Graphics and art direction are genuinely impressive. The environments are stunning, character animations are smooth, and the spell effects look incredible. When you're casting Chain Lightning and watching it chain between dozens of enemies, it feels amazing. Season 10 is actually addressing many long-standing complaints. Boss immunity phases are gone, replaced with breakable shields. Loot drops are improved, quality of life features are being added, and the new Chaos armor system looks genuinely innovative. They're clearly listening to feedback. The game has this unique quality where even when you're frustrated with it, you keep wanting to play. That's the mark of something special underneath all the problems. The foundation is solid, it just needs better execution. Is the hate justified? The truth is complicated. Many of the criticisms are completely valid. The monetization is predatory, the endgame needs work, and technical issues are unacceptable for a game this expensive. But some of the hate feels disproportionate. Review bombing and toxic community behavior don't help anyone. Constructive criticism works better than rage posting. Diablo 4 isn't a bad game. It's a mediocre game with flashes of brilliance, held back by questionable business decisions and design choices. For a franchise with Diablo's legacy, mediocre feels like failure. The game is slowly improving with each season, but many players have already moved on. Trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken. What needs to change? For Diablo 4 to win back players, several critical things need to happen. First, the monetization model needs a complete overhaul. Cosmetics should be earnable in-game, not just purchasable. The Battle Pass value needs to return to reasonable levels. Build diversity is absolutely crucial. Every class needs at least 4 to 5 viable endgame builds, not just 1 to 2 meta options. This means significant buffs to underperforming skills and more interesting item synergies. Players should feel excited to experiment, not forced into cookie-cutter builds. The economy and duping problems need immediate attention. Stronger anti-cheat measures, better gold farming opportunities for legitimate players, and market regulation to prevent price manipulation. The Chaos armor approach is smart, creating new item categories that reset the power balance. Endgame content needs major expansion, more activities, better progression systems, and meaningful long-term goals. The upcoming 2026 expansion might address this, but seasons need more substantial content updates. Class balance needs constant attention, with a focus on bringing weak options up rather than nerfing everything fun. When players discover powerful synergies, embrace them and create counterplay rather than destroying them. Most importantly, Blizzard needs to listen to feedback and communicate better with the community. Season 10 shows they're capable of making positive changes when they pay attention to what players actually want. That's why people hate Diablo 4 and why some of that hate might be justified. The game has potential, but it needs significant changes to reach it. Whether you love it or hate it, we can all agree it should be better. Hit that subscribe button for more honest gaming analysis and join our Discord community for ongoing discussions about ARPGs and the future of Diablo. I'll see you in the comments, and hopefully in a better version of Sanctuary.